Hi, everyone. Hello, how are you? Good afternoon, and welcome to Conversations with MM. This is Marivier Montibon, live on YouTube and Facebook. Yes, I'm live. Hope everybody's doing well. We're into the wonderful season of autumn, the beautiful season of autumn in October. And it's also a great celebration for us Filipinos here in the US because it's our month. It's Philippine American History Month celebration. And all over the US, where Filipinos are, we are celebrating this month to honor our work, to honor our ancestors, our labor, and our achievements as well. So there are so many things going on in our community, particularly here in New York, in Seattle, in California. So it makes the season more vibrant and more significant. But what is this Philippine American History Month? What is this all about? Let me show you some photos so that we will have a very historically significant conversation here. So, this is a picture of the older Filipinos who are here in the US. And so, this Philippine American History Month is actually 30 years old already in terms of its federal installation. So each year since 2009, the United States recognizes Filipino American History Month during the month of October. So being the second largest Asian American group in the country, and the Filipino Americans played a very critical part in history and culture of both the US and other states like California, New York, and Chicago. So, October is a significant month for us because it commemorates the first recorded presence of Filipinos in the United States. So, this was in 1597, October 18, when a Spanish ship landed in what is now the Morro Bay in California, and there were so many seafarers and that included Filipinos as sea voyagers across the Pacific. And this was during the Manila galleon trade era. So this was when the first wave of immigrants were recorded to have landed the US. And so Filipino American History Month was first proposed by the Filipino American National Historical Society in 1991. And this was the celebration was in the beginning of October 1992. 3 years later, um, no, no, sorry. In 2006, California Department of Education placed Filipino American History Month on its official calendar. And in 2006, California Senator Leland Lee introduced a resolution to formally recognize the month, which was then passed by the California State Assembly. And on, 3 years later, in 2009, the Filipino American History Month was federally acknowledged when the Senate of the 111th Congress passed a formal resolution to recognize Filipino American history throughout the month of October. So that's how long we have through this celebration. And so during this time, like this is a picture of Filipinos celebrating Phil-Am History Month at Queensboro Hall here in Queens. So this is a very important time for us uh, that we honor our heritage and we honor our present labor. So that's that for Philippine History Month. And also there are many activities in New York. For example, the launching of the Philippines Festival, I mean. So we have the restaurateurs who are running a festival of food This weekend, I am certain that the Ube Festival is going to be um, launched, or relaunched in Manhattan. So take note of that. This is organized by uh, and led by Miss Ojilin Francisco of Cabecera Cape. So there are so many activities going on in celebration of this Phil-Am History Month. So also, it is important to note that in the weekend, on Friday, there is an event that's important that's going on in Queens, and this is an art exhibit curated by Victor Velasco. Let me show this to you. So this is the Golden Years. It's going to open on Saturday, October 15 and 16, Sunday, from 3 to 7 p.m. And this is going to be at the Bliss Art Projects. Let me say the address. It's at 4149 45th Street, and it's on the ground floor on Sunnyside, New York. So take note of that. And a while ago, I had an interview, a wonderful interview with Victor Velasco. So I'd like to share this with you. Take a listen. So this weekend, there is going to be a very important event in Woodside, Queens. And this is an exhibit. I'm going to show you the poster. It's Golden Years, Weighing Philippine Martial Law, 1972 to 1981. And this is going to happen in Woodside, Bliss and Bliss Art Projects. That is on October 15 and 16, the opening weekend, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And this is brought to us by Malaya, by Affirm, Dakila, Active Vista, and another group, BOPAP. So this is curated by Victor Velasco. And so Victor actually is a good friend whom I haven't seen in ages. And it's good. The pandemic is gone, I hope. And people are doing what they love most. And so we're so happy to have Victor with us this evening. And let me tell you about him a little bit before I show his lovely face on screen. So, Victor is information technology specialist, and he specializes in change management, performance acceleration, and coaching. I really don't know what that means. And but his passion is with the arts, and he occasionally curates art shows, and his fiction and poetry have been featured in print and online journals here in the US, in the Philippines, in Ireland, and in Singapore. And concurrently, while he's running this exhibit in New York, he has a solo show in Bogota, Colombia. But as he said, he preferred to come to New York than Colombia. So we have him here. And Victor is the founding member of the Albay Arts Foundation, to which the photographs in the exhibit form part of a promised endowment. And this exhibit is his third curatorial project. He lives in Miami Gardens in Florida with his husband. And so happy to have you here. Victor, hi.
Hi, good
Kumusta?
afternoon, Mariver. How are you? It's been a
I'm
long time.
good. It's been a long time. Just
I know.
happy to see you.
I know,
Welcome.
me too. Me too. And I hope to see you in person soon.
Right. It feels like we just got out from the cave, no?
That's right. It feels like
Years.
that.
Oh my goodness.
That's true.
So how are you? How have things been
Things have
during the
been well.
pandemic with you?
Thank
Keep us posted. What's going on?
Yeah, things have been well. Thank you very much for asking. When
Mhm.
I met you, I think I was still working for a company, and then I became an independent consultant. Went back
Mhm.
to working again for a company, and then while doing that, the pandemic allowed us to work from home, um,
Mhm.
and actually forced a lot of us to work from home. And one of those, it says I said forced, but it was a pleasant experience because that saved me
Pleasant.
a lot of time. and then it
Yeah.
allowed me to focus not only on work but on my passion, which, as you have mentioned, is the arts. So having that, I was able to focus more on, or give time more to writing, aside from reading, to writing, and then to eventually to curating artworks of
So,
other.
you know, the pandemic, like we were all secluded, isolated, it brought out the creativity in you.
It brought out, it sort of forced it to
Forced
bring
it.
the creativity, because I have now to realign the 2 hours in the morning that I used to spend preparing for work and driving, and then
Right.
an hour and in the afternoon to drive back uh, home. So all that time spent, plus all the additional, meetings and so on and so forth, all the time that I used to spend on the road preparing for
Mhm.
work, I now have to find a different channel
Activity. Yeah.
to use that energy, and so it brought
It's
up
a
that
good one. It's a
again.
good thing, right?
It is.
And I think you save a lot of gas and money.
That's right, and we I think reduced our carbon footprint for a little bit there too.
Yeah. That's why the air got clearer.
That's
Good
what
for
they say.
us. Wow, wonderful. So tell us about this important exhibit, um, Victor. Why? How did you come up with this project?
Well, thank you, Mariver, and thank
What
you for,
inspired you?
yes, of course, and thank you for predicating it or describing it as important, because I do
Mm,
think that it is important and timely as well.
mm,
You have mentioned the name. The name is called The name of the exhibit is Golden Years,
mm,
um, weighing Philippine Martial Law 1972 to 1981. It's
mm,
an art exhibit of around 80. Now it's expanded into 90 photographs, vintage original press photos, which
wow.
were gathered from the archives of U.S. newspapers.
Mm,
When U.S. newspapers digitized their assets, a lot of their printed photographs were sold to secondary market, meaning to auctions, to
mm,
wholesalers,
mm,
and then those wholesalers have been selling them also in retail, and they have either through their own website or through online auctions or to in-person auctions, and happen to have stumbled into a couple of them. And it's not really photographs of the martial law that attracted me first, but vintage photographs about the Philippines that were published in U.S. newspapers since the 1930s, 1940s.
uh-huh.
There are
Wow.
tons of them if you look around. And
So
then
you can just Google it.
I'm just Googling. I go to live auctioners, I go to eBay, I go to the website itself of these sellers. Some of them are based in the US, one is based in Iceland, and
Wow.
there's one based in Latvia. So, again, they are all secondary market, meaning they bought them from the US newspapers. And
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing because you don't only get the original photograph, which were printed in different medium, but
Mm-hmm.
behind the photograph, or what they say en verso, behind the photograph, are all information
The
about the
caption.
photograph.
Uh-huh.
It tells you what date and what newspaper they appeared in, and
Yes.
sometimes they would reuse them. So they also have timestamp, just like your library card before. Every time
Mm-hmm.
you check out a book, you put a timestamp on it. So those photographs, I found out every time that newspapers would use them to accompany their stories, they put also the timestamp of when they were used, and they also have the original caption of the
So
photographs.
these are treasures. Like these are truthful information.
Yes, they were factual information. They were truthful information. And if you think about it, Marivier, those photographs which were taken in the Philippines, and like I said, some of the photographs, not just the martial law, but some of the photographs goes all the way back to the 1930s and the
So
1940s.
you were not actually thinking of martial law as your theme. You
No,
just wanted the old photos.
correct. When I started collecting them,
Hmm.
it's just anything that is relevant about the Philippines.
You're
Anything
so
that
nice. You're
there's
so
also.
like you love the motherland so much.
Yes, of
You do
course,
that.
of course.
Mhm.
I think it was Claro Embrecto who said that it's
Mhm.
not until you leave outside your country. Maybe it's Recto or Romulo, one of
Mhm.
those two big names in the Philippines. Is that it's not until you leave outside your own country that you get to really realize what your country is. And I'll tell you about that also, because this is relevant to what we're doing here.
Mhm. I,
As I
I want to show you. I want to show our audience this one.
okay,
The
go ahead.
one you described, that an old photo, and the back of it will give you
Yes,
us the caption and the
sure, go
reality
ahead.
behind this. So
Right,
this is a picture of children and a mom in the Philippines, and in the back, begging for survival. So how gripping is that, right?
right. And if
And
you
this
look at,
was, uh-huh, go ahead.
if you look at this photograph here, for example, you have tons of information here. First, it says that we don't have the photographer's name in most in some of the photographs. The
It's a
photographer's
UPI
name is there,
photo, right? The
but
credit
this is a
only.
UPI photo. Yes,
Mhm.
so it's one of those press photo agencies that
Yes.
get them from the photographers, and then they resell them to newspapers. So
Right.
that's
They
one
pay the
information.
photographer and they already own the photo, the UPI.
Correct.
So it
Now,
worked before
right. The other information that you have here is the date. That is January 12, 1970.
1970. Yeah,
So
a
if you
long time.
notice, this is before martial law, right? And
Right,
in the
right.
1970 also was during the time, January 1970 is one of the 3 months that were later referred to as first quarter storm.
Correct.
Those
Yeah.
are the January, February, and March were a very tumultuous years in Philippine history, because that's when students and other labor groups and other organizations started to show their disenchantment and
Hmm.
dissatisfaction with Marcos. And so,
Right, right. It was the time when the student movement was really like vigorous.
correct,
It
correct,
was it was brewing, it was growing. But I'd like to go back to this caption
sure,
because this is the beauty of a picture, because it's a story in itself, and
correct,
you have plus a caption that confirms it, that it reads, it's datelined in Manila. This poor Filipino family lives in Manila's poverty section, on which with church grounds on church grounds is used by the entire families to beg for handouts. An estimated 80% of the country's population belongs to the poverty sector. A massive program is being conducted in the Philippines, a Roman Catholic nation, inquire, inquiring into the problems of family planning and introducing sex education into the schools. There
right,
you have it. That's very encapsulated information about
yeah,
what the social fabric, poverty
yeah.
situation in the Philippines.
Right,
So,
right. And this is relevant. At first, the photograph itself, if you see it's in person, it's in glossy picture. I think it's a, silver gelatin print.
uh-huh.
That's a beautiful print. So this is one of those that would last for years and years and years. If taken, if
So
you
do
take
you have the
photos.
original? This is the original that you
These are
have?
the original, yeah. So
Wow.
all the
So it's
photographs
your
that will be shown
pleasure.
in the exhibit are original copies with the caption themselves at the back. So they're
So
really
how do
fresh.
you protect them? Are they put in a frame?
Yes, they are in frames. Yeah, they are
Mm-hmm.
in frames. And but going back to that photograph, if you look
Yeah.
at the fact that the visuality itself, it's already powerful. Like it shows
I know.
this really desperate situation for family. But the caption at the back is even more revealing, because it says
Yes.
at the time 80% of the population live below poverty line. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly one of the things that we're trying to bring out in this exhibit, is
Mm-hmm.
the fact that um, the reality, to show the reality of the Marcos years before
Mm-hmm.
martial law, during martial law,
Was it
and
definitely
right
golden?
after martial law. Exactly. And so the title Golden Years is really an ironic take on that phrase, because as you may have known, in some other people know, that the last 30 years, especially in the last 12 years, the Marcos family have been active in rebranding their rule as the golden years of Philippine society and
Right.
economy. Like
Yes, and they would boast, of course, on based on the the vigorous construction of buildings.
infrastructures, yes.
Yes, and that these are things that we immediately see, and so we think that that is a good that's a good indicator of being golden.
Right.
You have the Coconut Palace, you have the PICC, and all that. So that's one. I would believe that's an achievement, but development, and if you're a leader, you look at the quality of life of people. That is
Correct.
the gauge. It's not
Correct.
the buildings, it's not the bridges. They
Right.
have their function to make life much better, right? But
Right.
that's not the ultimate gauge.
Right.
Anyway, like I have to show this one too. This interested me. This is Mrs. Marcos, the first lady, Imelda Marcos, and she was here. You see the caption immediately, and this was
Mm,
when she was campaigning to be the vice president to her husband in the 1970 in the 1985 elections.
correct.
And this was where was this? Where was this printed? I couldn't see the
So
print.
it's November 2, 1985. If you look at the last line
Uh-huh.
in the
Yes,
caption,
yes.
yeah, that's November 2,
She's
1980.
campaigning. But you know what struck me here? The photographer really, I mean, it doesn't even matter who's the photographer, but reality is look at the contrast. She in her terno, in her spectacular Filipiniana, and on the other side are the ordinary people who seem to adore her, and to treat her like she's really an idol at that time, like a
Yes,
beautiful
of course.
goddess descended
Yes.
upon them.
Yes. And that was by design also. The Imelda Marcos really made it a point to dress up like that. There were two documentaries about Imelda that stand out, that also highlights from her very words, from her mouth,
Mhm,
that justifies why she, or rationalizes, not justifies, rationalizes why she dressed up that way. She
mhm.
said, there are two documentaries. One is The Kingmaker by
Uh-huh. I saw that.
Norman Greenfield, and the other one was Imelda by Ramona Diaz. In both
Correct.
of those documentary, Ramona Diaz being the earlier one, Imelda Marcos highlighted that, he said that when she meets with diplomats and world leaders, she just
Mhm,
dresses up however she thinks. But when she goes out into the barrios or to the slum areas, she
mhm.
really dresses up in splendid
Clothes.
clothes, because she wants to inspire the people. She has to give them a star to look up to. She said that
She
she
wants
sees
to
that.
be the epitome of beauty, to
Correct,
inspire.
correct. And she wants to be the epitome of beauty, and she wants the people to know that there is this mother figure that looks after them, that represents the country in terms of the beautiful, the true, and the good. That's which is
True, the good, and the beautiful. That's her
exactly
brand.
that's her slogan. Yeah, that's her
Yeah,
brand. Yes.
that's that's really weird.
Right.
I mean, I have a psychology background, and you would look at that as like a tendency for delusion.
Of
It's
course.
delusions
Of,
of grandeur.
of course.
And but she has this fantasy, and it's sweeping the country. Now
Yes.
I am struck with this looks, I thought like you had a picture of Bloomingdale's, but oh, I read the caption. These are the clothes of Mrs. Marcus, and it's wonderfully captioned as well. This isn't a department store, but a basement in the presidential palace containing the clothes of former First Lady Imelda Marcos. Reporters look over hundreds of Mrs. Marcos designer clothes, including furs at the right, in a special tour of the palace on Tuesday.
That's
This is
right.
by AP, Associated Press. Oh, you have the photographer here,
He's a Filipino
Alberto Marquez,
photographer.
in
Yes.
1986.
Correct.
That's some
So this was taken after the
precious.
people power already. So when
Yeah.
people finally were able to go inside ordinary people and
Mhm.
the press were able to go inside the Malacanang Palace and discover, the secrets that they have been hiding them for 20 years. Imelda was well known for her 3,000 pair of shoes. What's
Uh-huh.
little
I love
discussed,
this.
that's right. But
Also
what
looks
is
like
not
a shoe store.
discussed what is not discussed so much were her collection of gowns and furs. So it's that, it's that, as you said, it's just looks like a department store.
It's so ironic. Everything is paradoxical in the Philippines.
Right.
And so I'll show this as well. This is a photo of President Marcos when he abolished Congress.
Correct.
So let's read this. This is a 1973 photo by the again AP Associated Press,
Mm-hmm.
on a wire story. The January 17 of 1973 Philippines Constitution changed. President Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines addresses the hastily formed Philippine People's Congress in Manila Wednesday after signing into law a new constitution that replaces 26 years of US style government with a parliamentary system. At the same time, Marcos announced that martial law would continue indefinitely and elections would be suspended for the next 6 to 7 years. Just like
Correct.
that. You have a
Correct.
caption that says it all.
Right.
These
So
are fitting. I love it.
yes. So
I
when
like this.
Marcos, as you know, when Marcos was elected in 1965,
Mhm,
the Philippine Constitution was patterned after the U.S. That's the 1937, I think,
mhm.
1937 Constitution.
35.
Oh, 1935. Thank you.
Mhm,
1935
mhm,
Constitution. And along with that, the term of the presidency is also patterned after the US. You have one term is 4 years, and then with a
mhm,
re-election of another 4 years. So he was elected in 1965. There was a re-election in 1969 where
mhm.
he won again. And so his second and last term would have ended in 1974, but then he declared martial law in 1972, and as you
So
have read in the caption, he
mhm,
abolished the Congress. He also
the US styled Congress.
U.S. style Congress. He also ratified a new constitution, and in 1974, which was the last year of his second term, and which made him ineligible for re-election in the old
Mhm,
constitution, he was given a new 6-year term via a referendum. So it's not even
right.
an election; it was a referendum. And in also because the along with the abolition of the constitution was also the change in the form of the government from republic to being a parliament.
Mhm.
So now he is not only the president, but
But
also
also Prime Minister.
prime minister.
Yeah, I remember. I
Yes,
was in elementary and he was president and prime minister
yes. There
within
was
an
also a time that he was the concurrent minister of defense. So
Mhm.
it's a short period, but at the
Oh.
same time, he was also a concurrent defense minister. And you can see this pattern going on of like hugging multiple positions because
Mhm,
right now his son, who was elected president this year, also
mhm.
is the minister of Mr. Secretary of Agriculture, right? So
Right.
that's how it is.
So I will not ask your age, but how old were you during martial law?
So when martial law was declared, I was
Were
two
you a
years old.
baby?
I
Oh,
was two
okay.
years old. I was actually born, and this is going to be part of my curator's talk in on Sunday. I was
Uh-huh.
born in Caramoran, Catanduanes. It's a very small town. It's a fishing and farming town in Catanduanes.
Mm-hmm.
We only have one main road, and there was no electricity until I was 12 years old or 11 years old, I think. And the electricity runs on diesel, so it's only available for the entire town, or some people who can afford them. It's only available from 7 o'clock in the evening when it goes dark until 12 midnight. And then, so that's how small it is. So economically, we are as far away from Malacañang as some maybe Basilan, that
Wow.
just to
So
although
very
we are much
remote.
closer geographically, we are much closer, but economically and
What
socially.
year did you have electricity?
So I think 1980, it was 10 or 1981. I was 11 years old, just before we left Catanduanes and went to Albay,
Oh,
and that's where it's where now I finished my high school and
very
college
slow ang
education.
progress atin, ano?
Yes,
Very
yes.
slow.
But what I was gonna say about it is that, so 1972, I was 2 years old, so I
Mm-hmm.
grew up being a martial law baby, and our concept of martial law is not what I know now. what I know eventually in high school and in college. My concept of martial law is what the Marcoses would want us to
To believe.
remember about
Right,
martial
right.
law.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've been a martial law baby as well. Not baby, I was 6 years old, when it
Yeah.
was imposed. And I was in kinder. And I saw, like, when you go to school, you already have the songs like Bagong Lipunan.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
we were all having this new philosophy of development, and we're all
yes,
marching towards that. So you have
yes,
Bagong Lipunan, you have your Panatang Makabayan and all that,
yes.
all those
And,
songs.
and you remember the slogan, right? You remember sa ikauunlad ng
Na
bayan,
disiplina
disiplina
ang
ang kailangan.
kailangan.
So
Right.
for the progress, the
People behaved.
economic and
I
social
thought
progress,
so for a while,
we must be
they
disciplined.
there was hope. There was hope. But
Right.
then, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So,
But it's not so much that, because I think that's already part of the corruption that they were trying to impose.
right.
So the underlying thread that I see in this exhibit is
Mm-hmm.
that the curation of the
Mm-hmm.
imagination of the people. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so our imagination was being selected for us,
Right.
and that's actually again part of the conversation or part of the talk that I
And
will
so look
give
at
on
this.
Sunday.
This was um these are student activists
Right.
breaking up a demonstration. This is government troops. Let me read it. Use truncheons and rifle butts to subdue rioters. They're called rioters at the Manila Street
Mm-hmm.
corner. What's this? I couldn't read on the side. Corner. This is near Malacanang.
Yes.
So
Yes.
these are students that's being quelled by the police. It's called Metrocom. I would
Right. They are the most feared.
1970.
Right. They're the most feared uniformed men during the time. Pag
Right.
nahuli ka ng Metrocom, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're fierce, right?
And again, Marivir, some of the people who are part of that group of Metrocom are still in power today, in
They have
some
in fact
form or
been
another.
raised to the higher level, I guess, of
Yes,
position.
exactly, exactly.
And so there you go. This is the more brutal picture. This is taken by UPI.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so see here, riot police stand over two student demonstrators. This is what year is this? 1970, January
Yeah.
30.
So
And
both
it's
the last two
led by
pictures,
a left-wing youth group.
yeah,
Stole of
the last two pictures that you showed
Yes.
are part of that history of first quarter storm. So those are
Mhm.
all the
So
students.
this is in that section of your exhibit.
That's it's part of the exhibit. But again,
Mhm.
you mentioned about the students being leftists. But again, it's part of that whole labeling that they're doing. That anybody at the time, and there are some people who really lean towards a leftist ideology, Marxism,
Mhm.
socialism. That's the same worldwide during the time in France, in South America,
Mhm.
parts of Europe. And again, they have their part of the history. But what is bad about this whole red tagging, we call it
Mhm.
now red tagging, is that
Yeah.
during the time, anybody who shows
Who,
dissatisfaction or
who has a
opposition
critical mind will be
or
red
a
tagged.
critical mind would be called socialist or communist or leftist.
And
And
then
that is
the
very
communication
dangerous.
cuts down. No more. It
Yes.
shuts off our conversation because you're
Yes, and exactly. And that's dangerous because it is the state, it is the people in power who are polarizing the people. So instead of focusing on the issues that they're bringing up, instead of focusing on what is being complained about,
Mhm.
they just lump people into left or right. And
It's
it
like you're
and
being
diffuse the
dismissed and
debate.
you're also being threatened. So that is
Exactly.
really scary and doesn't solve the problem at all. It
Exactly. And
cannot
that,
be done that way all the time. They will, red tagging will have its peak. It will not hold persuasion anymore because people see the reality, feel reality, and you need to address poverty. You need to address corruption, which has been there for ages and worsening.
right, and that's what we're hoping for. But then
Mhm.
on the other hand, is aside from red tagging, part of what Marcos did and what Imelda did again is all that curation of your imagination. They stage a lot of spectacles. They stage pageantries. They stage what calisthenics. They stage like field demonstrations for students.
Right.
Then
We
all of
always
those
said that
things,
it's PE, right?
yes, all of those things that distract us from the real issues, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was trying to get into when I say that they are
Nice.
curating our imagination. They're making us believe that everything is sparkling and beautiful and good and true, just like what Imelda said, so that the people would focus on that. And then they would say that anybody who doesn't agree is really opposed to the government. And that is happening now. That is happening the same now, right now. Like anybody who is,
I just really hope people will
mhm,
learn from the lessons of the past instead of dismissing it, because ultimately it will go back to the welfare, to the security of everyone, the
right.
community and the society. I'll show this picture, which really
Mm,
made me, like, smile. Look at this. The Marcos in his very um the thing. Look at the position, the
yes,
impulsive, powerful guy. And I don't know what he told the Pope, and then the Pope is like, ah. The Pope is like, I don't know about that. So, so that's something, because the Pope spoke up when he visited there. I remember I
he
was
did. He
in high
did.
school, and I think he went there twice, right?
He did. He went there
Yes,
twice.
it was another showcase, Victor, that the Pope was there, so like Marcos was trying to say, everything's okay in my country.
Right.
The Pope spoke about human rights, and he said, you cannot deny it.
Correct.
That's an amazing.
Right.
Oh,
So
it's here. I found it at the back
the
of the photo.
yes,
Papal visit. So what he said was, even in exceptional situations that may at times arise, one can never justify any violation of the fundamental dignity of the human person or of the basic rights that safeguard this dignity, the Pope declared.
correct.
He knew that the excessive human rights violations are
Correct.
being,
Right.
hidden.
Right. This is one of those watershed moments again in the history of the Philippines or the history of martial law. That year, 1981.
Mm,
Um, Again, it coincides with the title of the exhibit, Martial Law from 1972 to 1981, right?
mhm.
Because 1981 was when uh, President Ferdinand Marcos, officially lifted martial law. And
Right.
that was because of the Pope's visit. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's a condition of the Pope or he wants to make sure that make a good impression with the Pope. The Pope went there in 1981 to beatify what who would eventually become the first Philippine saint, Lorenzo Ruiz. So
Mhm.
it was not canonization; it was beatification, which is the state or the stage before beatification, canonization. So, in order to please the Pope, Marcos officially lifted martial law. But then again, we know that what happened was it was only on paper because his military rule, was still the de facto policy of the
I remember
administration.
the one that substituted martial law. It's called PDA,
Mhm.
Preventive Detention Action, which
Correct.
is still very arbitrary, and
Correct.
you can still be, called by police, being put to their keep when they think that you're doing something unusual to their mind. So it's
Correct.
still dictatorial. It's still
Right.
militaristic, that PDA. In fact,
Yeah.
Victor, I remember that PDA in college. We will call it parental detention action, because
That's
our
true.
parents would feel like, me personally, my father, my late father, God bless his soul, would be so mad at me when I go to rallies. And so it's, oh, na PDA ka? Sabi ko, oh, parental detention action.
Yes.
So we use that term. Like, so you can't deny this to us.
You
We
can't.
know. We can
You can't.
critically see it.
Right. And again, it's one of those things that the Marcos did to curate our imagination, to make
Mhm.
us think different from what is reality. Say, oh, martial law is no longer ongoing, but then
Yeah.
that's what they say. But you're right. It's actually still the process that they followed, still the policy that they observe. And so the reality is really different from what was happening. So you talk about people learning from memory. You wish that people learn from the past. I
Yes.
think it's very hard because people don't learn from the present, especially when the present is being curated for you. If you are being told that this is what is happening and you believe it, and um, so you don't see what is really going on. So it's much harder to look back into the past if that past, while it was still present, was already being manufactured. So you're looking back to other manufactured reality in the first place.
So what hope do you give our kababayan, our colleagues or friends here in the US as well? Like, they always justify, like, everybody in the national government were corrupt. They had their share of corruption. They stole because the system allows for it.
Right.
You when you have a position, like, the structure, well, it's going to be a different conversation, but then they have a level of corruption too. So, but then how do you say Marcos was better
So,
when in the presidency of the others, they also had huge kickbacks, massive.
what do
Well,
you mean that Marcos was better?
Marco, they would toe the
Oh,
line
you
that
would say that
Marcos was
Marcos was
better
better.
because everybody else after him also
So,
had their share
yeah.
of loot.
First of all, it's very hard to have a conversation when you don't already agree on the fundamental statement. That statement that says everybody's corrupt is not
Mm-hmm,
true. Okay, maybe
mm-hmm,
majority is corrupt, maybe 51%, 60%,
mm-hmm.
70%, 80%, 90%, 95%. But I don't think 100% is that there's 100% that's corrupt. There are there are government servants, there are government officials who work against the norm of corruption and graft. What happened is that those people are being rebranded, and these people are being attacked, and those people are being uh, seen as either hypocrites or they're
Mm-hmm.
not true or
Mm-hmm.
that they are and they make up a lot of lies about them. I'm not going to speak of certain names because I don't want to be branded as being a supporter of this person or that.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but we know for a fact that there are government officials and there have been government officials who stick to the integrity and of their character,
Yes, and who are really public servants.
who are really public
Right?
servants.
Yes,
It's
yes,
too bad that they are being attacked by those who are not honest,
yes. There are servant
people who have
leaders.
no honesty, so to speak.
Yes, that's sad. So it's really a very, complicated, convoluted
It is.
topic to unpack. So it's not easy, but your work right now is such a big effort and an important effort to keep us understand immediately through the pictures what really
Right,
happened. So it's
right,
an amazing effort,
right.
and I am glad that you came to New York for that.
Thank you. And one thing that I would like to emphasize, Marivir, is that
Mhm.
these were photographs that were taken before the internet and before any
Right.
digital
Oh my gosh.
manipulation, right?
So
Before
vintage.
any digital manipulation, before any Photoshop or
Yeah.
airbrushing or anything like that. So what I want to point out is really the immediacy and the criticality of witnessing, because these are
Mhm.
witnesses to history. They are captured history as they happened. And
Mhm.
also the other technology here is that in the technology that they use there is amazing, without emails, attachments, things like
Yeah.
that.
It's all
They use
physical.
physical. They use wire photo. They
Mm-hmm.
use fax, telefax, or
Mm-hmm.
other type of electronic transmission, which before during the time are not subject to manipulations before they arrive. So these
Look at
are
this. I am just so amazed by this. Look at
mhm,
this guy on the road, and he's like protecting his head because the police is about to strike him.
the
And he's a
Metrocom.
very
Yes,
packed jeepney. It's
yes,
jeepney, right?
yes.
And you see students. I think these are students who went to a rally, and they're being hit by the police. So
Correct.
these are stories that are like, that's it. What you see is what you get.
Right. And it's still happening now.
Right.
It's still
It's
happening now. Maybe not in that massive
maybe
format,
I
but
think it's getting worse in a
yeah, it's
weirdly
getting worse in a
virtual
way.
way.
And you're right, it's getting worse in a way because they are done not only by uniformed men, but by mercenaries, by
Right. Oh
assassins,
God, that's
by
scary.
the riding in tandem, by the
Mm-hmm.
people who are undercover, by people who ordinary people who are hired
Mm-hmm.
by the police or by the local government or local authorities, people in power.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know anymore because they're not uniform. You don't know anymore that the person next to you on a jeep or in a bus or your neighbor or across the street could be that guy.
Right. So this exhibit is going to move around the US, correct?
Yes, it is.
From New
So
York, it
we
will be until November 18.
November 18 here in New York. We first opened in Miami, in North
Oh yeah.
Miami, actually, at
Mm-hmm.
Florida International University, which was a
Mm-hmm.
hope for me. It was as a matter of luck that I was able to get connected to that university, and they willingly said, "Yeah, let's launch it here. This is educational. This is history."
Yes.
They actually wanted the exhibit to remain there for the rest of the term of the semester, but
Mm-hmm.
then New York people said, okay, let's show it in New York. And then after that, I got requests from Bay Area, from LA, San Diego,
Wow.
Houston, Las Vegas,
So are
Chicago,
you going to
Seattle.
those
So
places? Are the pictures
I
going
don't know
there?
yet because this is really not funded. I have to spend my own personal uh, funding for this. A lot of friends jump up to help for the matting, for the framing, for the
Oh,
uh, the publication of posters and postcards and so on. And local hosts are sponsoring by finding their places or the spaces where they can be shown, as well as doing the programming. But we don't have any grant from anybody, from any organization or individuals. It's just
that
literally
will come.
people. That
That
it's
will
just.
come.
But what I want to point out is that
Mhm.
the community is being built around this because people
Yes.
want to help. So
It will be pushed if the community is there,
I
if
hope
the
so.
willingness is there, and when it's out in the media, which we're doing right now, you are going to be larger than what it is, a
Correct.
community
I
event.
hope so. I hope so
Yes,
because
I believe so.
we need to continue having these conversations. As this year is the 50th anniversary of martial law,
Right, right.
but martial law is not just one day when it was declared. And
Hmm.
remember that martial law occurred for at least 9 years, from 1972 to 1981. But then again, you can also say that it occurred for 14 years, from 1972 to until the time that the Marcos family was ousted. So for as long as that year, we should also continue that conversation. That it's not just a 1 day conversation, it's not just a 1 month. It should be an ongoing conversation. And as far as I know, Marivir, this is the first and the only type of this exhibition here in the U.S.
I
For
believe
Philippine
so. I
martial law.
haven't seen it, and it's like I've seen movies about the martial law, and there are a lot of forums, scholarly work being presented by Harvard and everyone else. It's beautiful, and I immediately jumped to it. But this one is good because, as a journalist, we love pictures because
Yes,
it speaks a thousand stories. It's there.
exactly,
You
exactly.
cannot fake it. So
Yes.
I love what you're doing, and
Yeah. And
more power to you.
yeah, and the fact that they were first published here in the U.S. and some of these pictures did not even appear in Philippine newspapers because
Yeah,
they were
it's
controlled by the
there.
economy. So there's a Filipino, I mean, sorry, a French philosopher said that distance provide sorry, yeah, distance provide perspective that only come with the passage of time. So even during the time, that distance between where it happened to where it was shown
Hmm.
already provided that holistic uh, picture and
Hmm.
already provided that perspective, because again, we have some distance from it already
Right.
physically,
And you can see from a bigger perspective
from afar. Yes.
from afar. So all the best to the event on Saturday,
Thank
and
you.
people, you go there and look at our history. No sugarcoating there, so come and join. and
Yes.
let's support, and let's, this is for ourselves actually.
Exactly. And we're open to everybody, really. Let's have this conversation going. And
Right.
but this time having these documents, these historical documents as our jumping point, as our starting point of the
Mhm.
conversation.
I don't like to share this picture, but I have to, just to be very paradoxical about the said
Oh,
golden years,
yeah.
right?
Breaks my
So
heart.
this is a child, a malnourished child, and at the
Yes.
back of the photo, a young girl suffering from severe malnutrition is one
Yeah.
of many children dying at a Bacolod hospital.
Yeah.
So that's in Western Visayas.
Yeah.
So there you go. So how golden is golden,
Yeah.
and we have to look at it from the, for me, the perspective of the social reality,
That's
not
right.
the infrastructure reality
Exactly.
or tourism and all that, right?
Yes, of course.
So congratulations. I'll say congratulations already, Victor, for
Thank you, my
doing
dear.
this. It's a big effort and it's an effort of love. So all the best. I'll see you in Woodside at the.
I'll see you.
I'll see you at the gallery
Yes, thank
of.
you. Bliss on Bliss Art Projects, and that's a community run. I mean, sorry, artist run, community based art gallery. It's been around for 12 years now, run
It's
by an
amazing.
Filipino artist, Jed Merino. So
What's
it
up,
has
Jed?
helped.
Is Jed going to be around?
No, Jed is in Bogota. He's the one showing
Oh,
in his other space, the one showing my
what
exhibit.
you're doing here?
Yes, well, we're doing here. But Jed has helped a lot of artists, Filipino and non-Filipinos, in Queens and New York for
Jed is
12 years
amazing.
now. So I'm so grateful that, again, after Florida International University, I was able to find another host here in New York that have that community already built
Right, right.
around it.
Amazing, right? We're so happy and proud of that effort. Especially now, this is October. It's Filipino American History Month. So,
That's right.
what could be more significant and truly substantial
Correct.
than
Correct.
this, right?
Right.
So,
Of
all
course.
the best. God bless.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you.
I'll
I'll
see
see
you.
you. Take care. Enjoy New York.
Salamat. All right. Thank you, Marivia.
Okay. Bye, everyone, for now. And we'll be right back. I have to unmute. So that was my interview, my conversation with the curator of the exhibit, Golden Years, Weighing Philippine Martial Law. This is curated by Victor Velasco. And so, Victor, I really loved our conversation. Thank you so much for your time. He just landed from Florida, and he was running to this interview. So thank you, Jed. I mean, thank you, Victor, and thank you, Jed Merino, who is in Colombia. Jed is the manager owner of Bliss and Bliss. So it's a community gallery here in Woodside, where artists of different genres are showcased. So take note, watch that on, uh, go to the exhibit, which opens on Saturday, and have yourself a treat. Have yourself a reality treat of what happened in the past, so that we become better, more critical minded persons. All right. So before I close, I'd like to share with you. By the way, mariviermontebon.com is already up and running, and I'd like to share our website, and to commemorate the the narratives of martial law. We are my website is opening up freedom memoir section, and this is where we put up narratives of martial law victors and victims, their narratives, so that we will always remember and preserve our freedom and be responsible in preserving it and living ethical lives, hopefully. Okay, so right now I am so honored and I am so proud to share with you this music video, which was created by my daughter, my angel daughter, Liani Auxilio. She created this as a school project in her new media technology course. And this is very timely. And so I would very much love to show this to you. And so here it is.
Tuloy bilisan mo takbo. Ilagang mga bombang nakatutok sa ulo mo. Toto'y tumalong ka, tumaba kung kailangan. At baka naman pa ang mga bala. Bitaw. Toto'y makinig ka, huwag kang magpapagod. Kapag kumalang ka, tumandusay dyan sa tabi. Toto'y, alam mo ba kung ano ang punot-dulot ng di matapos-tapos ng kaguluhan ito? Hindi pula't dilaw, tunay na makalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lubog sa kahirapan at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tatsulok at sila ang nasa tuktok, di matatapos itong gulo. Iniligtas ang hininga kay aming mga tao. Ang dating munting bukid ngayon'y sementeryo. Toto'y kumilos ka, balik ka rin ang tatsulok. Tulad ng dukha na ilagay mo. Tuktok. Hindi pula't dilaw, tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tatsulok at sila ang nasa tuktok, di matatapos itong gulo.
I was asked to protect my home, and during that time, I conversations with many people, including a communist. I recognize that making any kind of choice has a lot of sense.
Pula't dilaw, tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lubog sa kahirapan at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tatsulok at sila ang nagtungtong, di matatapos itong gulo. Habang may tatsulok at sila ang nasa tungtong, di matatapos itong gulo. Di matatapos itong gulo.
There you go. That's the music video Tatsolok, which was created several years ago by my angel daughter Liani Alnica Montebon Auxilio. She was actually the digital editor of Awesome Online Magazine, and she transitioned. She passed away on November 17, 2019. God bless your soul, and thank you for your legacy, Nak, and for the inspiration that you give me all the time. And I that I, despite the fact that I miss you every day, you nurture my heart. Thank you so much. So I hope you had a good time in this conversation with me, and take note to consider visiting my website, marivirmontebon.com, for more updated events in the community that have a lot of fun and social relevance to us all. So for now, it's goodbye, and we will see each other again. And congratulations once again, Victor and Jed, for this upcoming exhibit. I hope it's going to be truly packed. I hope maraming pupunta. So that's it for now, and hope to see you again in one of our conversations that matter to us all, personally and publicly. So bye for now, and take care, everyone. Enjoy.